Welcome back to Grand Slam Sports. My name, Jace Hutch, over on the desk is Charles Foster and Jackson Strasburger. The first round of the NBA playoffs has almost come to conclusion. Still 2 series to be figured out. But guys, we begin today. The Timberwolves won in 5 games against the LA Lakers. Lakers in 5? No, Wolves in 5. Charles?
And this takes me back to a certain time last week whenever we were talking about the Lakers and the Timberwolves, and a lot of people were saying that the Lakers were going to win this series, and I asked Evan, our producer, to go through and take some clips of that. So we're going to take a quick look at that real quick.
He knows how to play the game. He knows how to defensively and how to hold up. I have the Lakers in 6.
There's one reason why I'm going to pick the team I'm picking. It's because of one name. That's Rudy Gobert. I'm taking the Lakers.
One name, Rudy Gobert, he says, as Rudy Gobert puts up prime Shaq numbers. I said if Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle have a good series, the Timberwolves will take it home. And every last person around me, Nate's not here, but I'm sending hate to Lewis, Chicago. There was a great series from the Timberwolves. Timberwolves take a massive win and are moving on.
Yeah, I think an Anthony revenge series, playing Luka last year, getting knocked out of the finals, had a chance to go all the way to the finals because of that. He had 27, 8, and 6 in the entire series, 42% shooting, 33 from 3. I mean, he was fantastic, to say the least. And even that last game, we saw Rudy Gobert, you said prime Shaq numbers, 27 points, 24 rebounds. The entire games, 1 through 4, he had 14 points. He nearly doubled that in one game.
So people were telling me whenever the Luka trade was made was that the Lakers became contenders. And I've been saying it. I've been on the hate train for a good 3 to 4 months saying if you do not have a center in the Western Conference or any conference, you're not going to win basketball games. And they just let Rudy Gobert absolutely torch them in the paint. And I think that it was just a prime example of what I've been speaking. As a center, I played center for 12 years. You need a big man in the paint. The Lakers did not have it. The Lakers got dominated, and it was no longer Lakers in 5, like you said, Timberwolves in 5.
Yeah, I want to begin by saying my sincere apologies to Rudy Gobert because I gave the reason that Lakers would win in 5 because Rudy Gobert had not played well, and then he goes out and plays, like you guys said, prime Shaq. That was definitely a problem for me. I mean, Gobert is good, but he is not that good. But Charles, like your point, the center was the problem. I mean, you got Jackson Hayes there. It's not going to really do much against Rudy Gobert, who's a few inches taller than you, can go up and grab a rebound. So that's where things kind of fell apart for the Lakers. And I mean, when you have Luka, who can't score, but he can't play defense, and then LeBron, he's getting older. He's 40 years old. The team has some good players, but as a team overall, it's just not built to win a playoff series.
Yeah, and I think that the Lakers, they were always fraudulent to me. And I think they got proven wrong by a pretty young Timberwolves squad as they're going to be moving on. But looking at another team that I'm not too high on, and another team that I think is going to get absolutely mollywopped in the second round, we got the Indiana Pacers versus the Cavaliers. Jace, your Pacers, what do you got to say?
Can you stop hating on the Pacers?
No.
They keep winning playoff series. They keep winning games, and you keep saying that they are bad. You keep saying that they are not as good as people think. They won now 3 playoff series in the last 2 seasons. They are proving themselves to be a contender in the Eastern Conference time in, time out. That is just how I mean, a little bit of bias there, yes, but I mean, we just beat Milwaukee again, 4-1 in 5 games. Keep that in mind against Giannis, one of the best players in the world. Yes, the Bucks aren't built that well. Yes, the Bucks have their own problems with shooting and other things outside of Giannis. But I mean, looking at the series, we'll go in the series now. The Pacers and Cavs. The Cavs are built really good. They have the depth that is way better than our depth because our bench this year has not been great. McConnell has been iffy at some times. But the Pacers, they can compete in this series if Halliburton can play defense. Because right now, he's tasked with Darius Garland, who has his own problems with a toe injury right now. He's questionable to play in Game 1 right now. But if Halliburton can play defense against Garland, and if Miles Turner can perform the way he can, the Pacers can take the series to 6 or 7.
And the voodoo magic continues for the Pacers as once again another top player is tasked with injuries. That's been the story. You keep on saying they win 2-3 series, but have you guys gone against a fully healthy team? No. And that's been oh wait, they did against Boston. They got swept. So that's been the problem with this team is now they're going against I'll give you guys the benefit of the doubt. If Garland plays, whether or not he plays, if you guys win the series, it is a legit win. I'm not going to throw the injuries on that one. Injuries are part of the game, and I'm not going to sit here and say that the Pacers do not deserve to be where they are. I'm just saying that they are extremely overrated and will be exposed by the Cavaliers. Not a fan of this team. Not a fan of their play in the paint. Another team without a really good center presence, and they're about to go against Depoy and someone that is a future Depoy and Jared Allen. I think they're going to get absolutely ransacked in the paint. I got the Cavs at 5.
Yeah, I'm more with Jace on this one. I think the Pacers are hot. They've played fantastic the last series. They beat the Bucks. It was a very good series against the Bucks, and I think they played at the end of the season hot. I just don't see them beating this Cavs team. This Cavs team is too good. I think it goes to 6 or 7, and I think the Cavs do end up winning this one. But like you said, you have too much center depth in there, too much depth that the Cavs have. Cavs in 6.
And we also talk like the Cavs aren't hot. There were graphics saying that the Cavs move on and at halftime in Game 4. I mean, they were up by 50 against the Miami Heat.
They were playing the
Well,
Heat.
then again, it's Miami. All they have is Tyler Hero, who didn't even play well.
But this is still a team that is very hot, and they're the best
Yeah,
team
I
in the
agree.
East by far. They outplayed the Celtics this year, the defending champions. I'm just saying I think that the Cavs will show some dominance. But in a series to where we saw a pretty dominating game, and one that we were at Buffalo Wild Wings actually watching in tears, Rockets versus Warriors, their series is still going on. This has been another one of our heated debates throughout this season. And talking about the playoffs, we've had a pretty big debate between Warriors and Rockets. You've been Team Warriors the whole time. I've been Team Warriors if Jimmy Butler's healthy. You've been mostly Team Rockets a lot, but sometimes
I began with on the Warriors side. With that Jimmy injury thing kind of switched. I didn't know how long he was going to be out. I thought it was going to be a little bit longer than it was. I was always Warriors if they were healthy. And I'm staying with the Warriors now that they are healthy and now that they're up 3-2. I think the Warriors should win the series. The Rockets will probably lose tonight. I mean, it's in Golden State, and with that home court behind them, I see them winning tonight in Game 6.
Big thing about this game, like you said, in Golden State, they have the advantage and they are healthy. And that's going to be the big thing for this series but the Warriors, they looked awful in their last game. I mean, they were down the entire time. Me, you, Evan, we were all sitting there just like, what the heck is going on with this Warriors team? But they made it a competition at the end of the game. And that is the biggest thing. I think the Warriors, they're hard to knock out. They've won it multiple times. And the Rockets, they just don't have that experience. The biggest thing for the Rockets will be, can they get their Pate presence and Alperen Sengun going? I think that will be the answer on this series for them.
And can Jalen Green get going the way he can? I mean, we saw game 1, 3, and 4 how bad he was, but game 2, I mean, there was that 38-point bomb. I mean, Jalen Green is just inconsistent. If he can score the way he can, that'll then open things up for Sengun in the paint, and the Rockets can then win game 6 and take it back home for game 7. But the Warriors, they're shooting with Curry, with Hield, with that roster they have now. It's hard to beat. It's hard to guard all 3 of those guys outside the arc. And that's why I think the Warriors take game 6 tonight, Jackson.
Last episode, for last Friday, a week ago, I said the Warriors can still win the series with or without Jimmy. I said that. I was made fun of. I was laughed at. I said I was going to pick the Grizzlies to win the series. And now everybody's on the Warriors side. Warriors take this. Jimmy Butler is not 100%. You see him grabbing his hip after almost every shot he takes. And I still have them in 6. I think this Warriors team, like I have said before, is the best 7 seed. And this Rockets team should have never been a 2 seed. I will die on this Warriors team. They can go far in this series.
I don't know what you're talking about. You did not spend time putting together a clip of us all saying that. There's no proof of us ever being against the Warriors, and I
Evan,
refuse.
start making it.
And believe it or not, this is the season finale of Grand Slam, so you got to wait at least 4 months until we.
Listen, I'm just saying right now, if the
win.
Pacers beat the Cavs, I'm pulling a clip and posting it to the YouTube channel of you saying the Cavs are going to dominate, just because I have to, just out of pure hate.
Okay, fair enough. Now, one thing that we're going to look at now. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and believing it will be different the next time. And you know what that thing is in the NBA world? It is the fan bases chanting, "We want Boston."
Stop
New
it.
Yorkers were lining
Stop.
the streets last night
Stop
chanting,
it.
"We want Boston."
Stop
And, well, Boston's going to be coming for you.
Stop.
This next series, Celtics versus Knicks. Jace, what are you feeling?
When are they going to learn to stop chanting, "We want Boston"? It does not work. It is worse, if anything, because you're just firing the Celtics up more. Boston is still, to me, the best team in the NBA. They have the roster with Brown, with Tatum. The entire roster is full of all-stars. They're hard to beat. The Knicks are not going to be competitive in this series. They have a great roster. They have Brunson. But outside of him, I don't trust anybody to do anything against this Boston roster. I'm taking Boston probably 5 games in this series because they just have a well-built roster, and the Knicks, they aren't built for the playoffs. They got lucky against Detroit. They got lucky. You look back at Game 4, that was a foul in that last-second shot. I mean, you look back at last night, they were down, had to go on a late run because the Pistons blew themselves up. The Pistons should have won that series if we're talking realistically, but I'm taking Boston in 5 in the series easily because they have the production that outweighs New York to me.
I think this series will be very interesting because, yes, I do believe that the Knicks are not built for this, but I do have the Celtics in 6, but I am absolutely mortified of a man named Karl Anthony Towns because he is a very versatile big man. He's done it at some pretty high levels, and The person that's going to be on him is Kristaps Porzingis, who's been struggling with injury. He's been healthy throughout the playoffs, so that's good. But then the other person that's going to be on him for most of the game is a 40-year-old Dominican named Al Horford that's just going to be trying his absolute hardest. And he does a great job. I've watched so many Celtics games in my lifetime. I've watched that man guard up Giannis, some of the best of the best. But Cat is a different breed. He's got that shot on him. It'll be very interesting. If Cat gets going, the Knicks could surprise some people. And that's coming from a Celtics fan.
Yeah, I have the Celtics winning this. I think most people do. I don't think the Knicks are built for the playoffs right now. And that really kind of starts with when you have your 5 players and they are all playing over 35 minutes a game and only one of them is averaging over 20. You have Karl-Anthony Towns playing 38 minutes almost a game and he's averaging under 20. OG's playing 42, averaging 17. Mikal Bridges 38, averaging 16. And then Josh Hart averaging 37 minutes, averaging 11 points. That's not going to win you a championship game. And you have a few other players who play, but not really, because you don't have that big of depth and you're not going to make it far. I'm surprised they beat Detroit. I don't think they should have beat Detroit. And now I think it's a 4 or 5 game series and Boston wins.
And honestly, bringing up, Bridges, that haul that they spent to go and get him from the Nets, he just hasn't produced the way he should for that many first-round picks that, New York gave up to get him to Brooklyn. It just, to me, he hasn't produced the way he can. I mean, you have OG, you have Hart who can play defense, but Bridges is just doinking threes right now. It's just not pretty.
He changed his shot form, and he has not looked the same. And the biggest thing with the Knicks is, they have chemistry. Obviously, they won a national championship at Villanova, yippee. But I think the biggest thing for them is, can their players be productive despite being on the floor for 40 minutes a game? Because Thibodeau, he loves to play his players through a wall. And they're not being productive enough for those minutes. That's the biggest thing, is for example, looking at the Celtics, right? They play their players a lot, but you have Tatum with 35 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Like, he's doing everything. Well, a lot of the Knicks, other than Jalen Brunson and Cat, most of the time will just end up doing cardio for 40 minutes, and that's been the biggest issue with this Knicks team.
And you also have the bench production of Peyton Pritchard off the bench. I mean, look what he can do off the bench. The Knicks don't have that kind of guy that can come in off the bench and throw up 20 points from outside the arc. Peyton Pritchard can do that. The Knicks just aren't built with depth to beat a team like Boston, who has 7, 8 guys that can go out and drop 20 points a night.
Yeah, when you have Miles McBride and Cameron Payne, who can be great scorers, but when you have them playing 16 minutes and they're averaging 3 points a game, that's not going to get you very far. And we've seen that. Again, the Pistons should have beat them. That foul should have been called. This game should be Detroit Celtics, and that's still Celtics winning. I think that's a more fun series to watch over this one, which I think is going to be a blowout, except for maybe one game in New York.
Agreed.
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm saying 6 games, but I think it's pretty clean sweep. We all have Celtics in 5 or 6. So looking at a team that is not built well either, we have the Milwaukee Bucks. We're going to talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo. What is next for the big man in Milwaukee?
Well, I mean, look back to that series. He was the only guy doing anything on the floor outside of Gary Trent Jr., who for some reason turned into Prime Curry half that series. But, I mean, Giannis, this guy is the best player in the NBA to me. What he can do on any given night is insane. I mean, look back at the series. He had 30 and 20 and 13 a night, points, rebounds, assists. He had 13 assists in that final game. He's becoming more of a kind of a point forward, if anything, now, too, because he can pass the ball now. Giannis, to me, I want him to stay in Milwaukee. I think he likes Milwaukee, but I think he needs to get out of Milwaukee because Milwaukee is just not giving him what he needs. I mean, they gave him Dame, but that just didn't work out because Dame is consistently hurt, and they have no depth around them because 70% of their salary cap is going to those 2 players. They don't have money to spend to give out to other players to help the team out, which is why I think he should go to a team like Houston or San Antonio.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. Going to a young team that has the money to spend, I just think this whole entire offseason we're going to hear rumors about where he's going to go. And we're going to end up, Milwaukee's going to sign somebody, and he's going to sound good, and then Giannis is going to stay, and then that guy's not going to play, or he is, and he's not going to be good. And then it's going to be this same thing next year, and the year after that, until he's a player opt-out, which in 2 years, and then he's a free agent the year after. He's signed somewhere else and maybe be able to win another championship with them.
I have no idea where this is going to go. Actually, I do. It's going to end up the way that you said it, probably.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing we need to look at is the Milwaukee Bucks themselves. They have no first-round picks for multiple years. They have no money, no players that they can trade away to make money. They are stuck where they are with no sign of getting any better anytime soon. And this is now the biggest issue with them. And if I'm them, I'm getting rid of Giannis. And if I'm Giannis, I like the teams that you named, but to me it's always been, not always been, I was big on the Warriors, but I think that's more fantasy booking than anything. There's one team that's really opened my eyes with this team, Detroit. The Detroit Pistons, I love that fit. They are 1 star away, in my opinion, from full contention, and I think that they have enough prospects away to make that team a contender in 1 year.
I don't see the Bucks trading him to an in-division rival. I don't see that happening. I think he goes to the West. I think he goes Houston, San Antonio, or Golden State. Or if there's any East team, it's going to be Miami. But, I mean, like you said with the Bucks, they're not in a good spot right now. They have older guys like Brook Lopez. Kyle Kuzma is absolutely horrible. He just did not play well at all in the whole series. I mean, the Bucks gave up a Bucks legend, Chris Middleton, for Kyle Kuzma. And Kyle Kuzma, I think the whole series had 23 points and 10 rebounds, the entire 5-game series. That is horrific for a player to do in a playoff series. But like I said, I think Giannis needs to get out. And I think if the Bucks want to reset, they need to trade Giannis for an absolute haul of picks and young talent. That is the only way forward for the Bucks to me.
I think Giannis fits perfectly as a Laker. I mean, this is kind of a dark horse team, a team that needs to win now. Giannis is 30. He doesn't have a whole bunch of time left. I feel like that fits perfect. Get them a big man. It's what they need. Giannis down low. And I think this team might have a chance next year.
They would have 0 depth if they traded for Giannis. They would have Luka, LeBron, Giannis, and then to be determined player.
That's a fantasy world. I think it fits well. I don't think it happens.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great fit.
I think the realistic fantasy world to me has been the Warriors because they have an abundance of prospects that do nothing. Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Pod. These are a bunch of prospects that have the league once, but the Warriors just refuse to trade. They just don't want to trade them, but they don't want to play them either. Steve Kerr hates them. The front office doesn't want to trade them, and it's just been this endless standstill with Kuminga, and especially Kuminga and Moody. I think if I'm the Bucks, I'm going all out, getting a bunch of Warriors prospects, and the Warriors, they're not even in win now anymore. They are past that point. But they also did get Jimmy Buckets, so that does make it a little bit. It makes the waters a little bit muddy. As far as the division's concerned, I'm not too worried about divisions. I think divisions in basketball are like the most meaningless thing possible.
But there's still rivalries. There's still rivalries.
There's still rivalries, but Bucks and Detroit's not really one of them. But it'll be interesting to see where he ends up going. But the one thing I think every last one of us can agree on is that Giannis Antetokounmpo needs to leave the Milwaukee Bucks. But we're going to take a short break here, and we're going to go talk about some baseball coming up next on Grand Slam Sports.
Time to talk some baseball. We'll throw it over to Charles for his Foster 5 disappointing players. Charles, who are we thinking so far from the beginning of the MLB season?
So a few weeks ago, we started the Foster 5, and due to certain reasons, we had to get rid of it for about 2 weeks because of the NFL draft. But we're back with the Foster 5. My most disappointing players of the 2025 season. Number 1 is a man by the name of Yainer Diaz. He has been absolutely atrocious this season. One of the better players last year, and just has not been doing really well. Only 2 home runs on the season and batting 185. Just been a really rough season overall for Yainer Diaz. Looking at number 4, we have someone that was supposed to break out, and I was really excited for. We have Tristan Cassis from the Boston Red Sox. He was expected to take the Bobby Dahlbeck road, and he's able to have a really good season. He's going to replace Dahlbeck, and he's just not been able to do that this season. He's currently batting 184, slightly under Yainer, and 3 home runs. The pop's been there a little bit, but it's just he's been struggling getting contact on the ball. Looking at number 3, this one's going to hit a little bit close to home. Cody Bellinger. He was the big signing for the Yankees. He's doing a little bit better than these other guys. He's batting in the 200s, but he has just not been as consistent as needed. He was supposed to be one of these big signings for the Yankees, and just it's not been looking too well. But time will tell. Obviously, the Yankees could figure things out. The only pitcher on the list, Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola is 0-5 on one of the best teams in the league with a 5.40 ERA. He has been struggling immensely. He was supposed to be one of those Cy Young candidates next to Zach Wheeler coming into the season, and he has just not been able to find his stuff. Pretty much the way it's been is when he pitches, the Phillies lose, and for a team that's as good as the Phillies, that's not what we want to see. And my number 1, from one of the best players in baseball to one of the worst, Marcus Semien from the Rangers. He has been absolutely flailing this season. We've seen it a lot. We've seen it when he was an all-star last year, and anytime he goes against that pitcher on the opposite side, that's been the biggest struggle for him is how can he figure out to get that bat on the ball. Been looking a little bit like Javi out there occasionally. He's currently batting 188 with 2 home runs. His stats are a little bit better than 4 and 5, but I think the biggest issue with him has just been, like I said, finding the ball, especially on those breaking balls.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Texas as a whole, and they just haven't been good this year. They have been atrocious, and they're one of the worst teams in MLB right now. And Simeon's just not what he used to be. I want to go back to Bellinger real quick. Bellinger is playing okay. He's not playing up to his possible standard. I mean, he didn't play great in Chicago last year either, but he's still a good ball player when he's playing the way he can. He's hit a few homers this year, a few dingers, but other than that, he's been mediocre at best. Hopefully he can figure it out, but then, yeah, like you said, Aaron Nola, 0-5 is just not great on the Phillies, and supposed to be one of the best pitchers in the MLB, and you've just been absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, I like the Diaz pick. I think he was supposed to be this big pickup for the Astros, not pickup, but a big kind of bright spot for the Astros when they lost Bregman. He has been kind of the opposite. Casas, I was excited to see, just haven't really been able to see him. And as Red Sox, he can be very good. He came off a big injury last year, came back from that injury, and played pretty well after that. Just still hasn't been great. I don't think Cody Bellinger should be on this list. I think there are worse players, more disappointing players than that. I think definitely if he is, he should be 5. He's very borderline for me. Nola, I mean, some questionable starts. And Simeon, he's hard. I feel like he's been a lot better than he actually has, but looking at the numbers, he hasn't been great. I think he'll find something. He's not like playing. I think we've seen him play worse in stretches. I just think he'll find his stride, and he'll be off this list pretty soon.
I think the biggest thing with Simeon was he was coming off one of his better seasons in a Rangers uniform. And he was an all-star last year, and he's just not been able to find his thing. But the Bellinger pick, I knew that would turn a few heads because I know, obviously, he has better stats than the other 4. I think the biggest thing is what his ceiling was. He had a really, he reinvented himself with the Cubs. The Cubs they brought him in, and he had some of his best seasons since the MVP days, and he's just not been able to find that same form in the Yankees uniform. To me, that's been the biggest thing with him. It's just he needs to find that form that made them sign him and be that Juan Soto replace. No one can replace Juan Soto, but he's the closest thing they could get.
Well, going from disappointing to straight up stinky, the Colorado Rockies have how many wins, guys? How many wins do they have?
5. 5 wins for the Colorado Rockies. They reek. They absolutely stink. And now draws the question of the day. Will the 2025 Colorado Rockies be worse than the 2024 Chicago White Sox? Jace, I bring it to you.
That's a tough one. If we're talking about last year's White Sox, I think no. Last year's White Sox were horrible. That was one of the worst teams we've seen in MLB history. The Rockies, yes, they are bad. I don't think they're as bad as last year's White Sox team.
I think the biggest thing with the Rockies, and it's been the issue since the dawn of time, since the dinosaurs were out there, the Rockies have had this issue. They do not have good pitchers at Coors Field. You are at Coors Field where the ball seems to fly, and yet your best pitcher is Herman Marquez.
And they're also paying Chris Bryant how much money?
They're paying Chris Bryant a lot of money. And Rockies fans, I actually saw a thing last week. It was the list of anguish and despair. It was a list of the 5 worst things that the Colorado Rockies have ever faced. And this season could be one of them. They have the Nolan Arenado trade. They have so much stuff that's been going on. The Rockies have had it rough. Jackson?
Yeah, so I don't think there's a shot the Rockies are worse than the White Sox last year. The White Sox were the worst team we've ever seen, and it wasn't very close, and the record was broken over 50 years, if I remember right. Baseball teams win. They will go on a streak, they will find games, and they will win games. That's just how it goes. Baseball's a very streaky sport. When you're cold, you're cold. When you're hot, you're hot. But the issue is they're not going to be hot enough to be – they are going to be the worst team in the league, but they will not be worse than the White Sox. They won't break any records. But they need a pitcher.
I am on the opposite of the train. I do believe that they will be worse than the White Sox. I think because of that division and who they're going to be going against. So we'll end up seeing, we'll actually be able to look at it coming in at this next season of Grand Slam Sports. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk about some hockey playoffs coming up next. From the field to the ice, we're going to be talking about some hockey here, looking at the playoffs. Jace taking a quick step off because he does not know hockey. So me and Jackson, we're here to talk about some hockey here. And the first thing we're going to talk about, my Maple Leafs moving on despite, doing everything in their power not to.
Yeah, they finally get out of the first round. I mean, that's a positive. They played. I mean, offensively, they look fantastic. William Nylander having 3 goals, 6 assists, leading the team in points. Marner having a goal, 7 assists. They're passing the puck well. And that's something we'd like to see as a team, but that's not their issue. Their issue is on the defensive side, and it's been that way. I looked at the plus-minus stats, which is a very big deal in hockey. How many goals are you letting up while you're on the ice? And every single one of your big players, from Matthews to Marner to Riley to Nylander to all of them, they have 0 or less on the plus minus. They're letting up too many goals in those important lines, and they're just not ending up where they need to. And I think that's why they're not going to make it as far as they can on the offense.
I think the biggest thing for the Leafs has been, can they outscore you? And they started up 3-0 against the Sens, and then they lose 2, and it was starting to get a little bit scary. I remember I was talking to Jace, and I was like, I don't know how this is going to end. I watched the game last night. They looked a lot better. Austin Matthews starting it off around, I want to say early or later in the first period with a goal, and then Nylander coming right out and starting off with another one. I mean, that 2-0 lead was crucial in the way that they ended up winning that game. And we saw it ended up becoming 2-2 in the third period. But just 84 seconds after the Sens tied it up, the Leafs score another one. And I think that was the biggest thing. It was a great day for the teams in blue as the Jays and the Leafs get a win. And Toronto finally moving on in a playoff series. It's been one of the hardest things. They've been the Cowboys of hockey. And it's been one of the harder things for these Toronto fans who were actually in pretty abundance in Ottawa. They made that little travel over to Ottawa, and then, it felt like a home game there when I was watching it.
I mean, I like this team. I just don't trust them enough on defense to move on to the next round. I feel like you go up 6-2 first game, next 2 games in overtime, you don't want to see that. Yeah. I mean, if you're in the playoff spot, going in 3 games in a row, going to overtime, that's not going to usually end your way. And it almost didn't for the Leafs. They lost the third one, lose the next one, didn't even score a goal. That's kind of the big thing. If they can't score, they're not going to win. And then eventually, that last game, able to take it 4-2. But I mean, it was a struggle kind of watching this team. And
It was rough. I watched 4 of the 5 games. Only one I did not watch was at the draft, and it has been really rough for the Leafs. And now they go against one of the hotter teams in the Panthers. It's going to be a hard series for the Leafs, and if they want to take this one home, they're going to need to get some defense up or just outscore. But we are seeing that doesn't really work at this higher level. But going from the teams in blues to the literal blues, we're going to talk about the St. Louis Blues and the Jets as they look to end off their series. Your Blues, how are you feeling about them?
Nobody can win at an away stadium, which means the Jets are going to take this, in my opinion, in 7. Bennington has not lost a home game since February 4th. That's 13 in a row. And Robert Thomas has played fantastic in the playoffs. He has 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 total points. But I mean, you have 2 of the top goalies going against each other versus 2 of the top atmospheres going against each other. One of them has to give, and it's going to be the one that's going to play at home more games than not. I have the Jets winning in 7.
And I draw the question to you now. How hard is that out-of-country travel in a playoff series? Having to go from St. Louis to Winnipeg, how much does that really impact how the Blues have had to play?
I mean, you can tell they play a lot, but you play a lot better in your home stadium anyway. But when you go, you're traveling, I don't know how far the flight is. I know Seattle was like 4 hours.
It's not a fun flight.
From St. Louis to Seattle, so longer than that. And it's just, I mean, you have this long flight. You have 1 day of rest, and then you're on the ice, and you're moving. And, I mean, it's hard to travel that far and still play that good. And we've seen that today, or we've seen that this series, that nobody is really able to play at their away stadiums. Even Winnipeg coming to St. Louis, having that same flight, and it's been a lack of play, and you can tell they're tired.
Yeah, I mean, and that's been one of the hardest things is we see it a lot. A lot of these series had kind of those storylines. We saw the Florida versus Florida. We saw the battle for Canada between the Leafs and the Sens, where they only had like a 2-hour travel. And that's like a 2-3 hour drive. So, I mean, it wasn't a bad travel at all for these 2 series. And then we're looking at you guys where it's literally you're going to another country every other day, and that's been one of the harder things, I think. And that's one of the things it's going to be the team that ends up, if the Blues want to win it, they're going to have to take one on Winnipeg, and that's no easy feat. Winnipeg has been really good at home this year, and they've been really good in general. It'll be very interesting to see. We're going to start to wrap things up a little bit. We're going to bring Jace back on for us to kind of have a little bit of a little wrap up for this second season of Grand Slam Sports. Coming up next. It has been a very good season 2 of Grand Slam Sports here. Jace Hodge is back because he actually knows this topic, and we're going to kind of go through and look at some of the best memories in a second. But I have a question for each of my 2 co-hosts to my left and right. Jace, the first question I have to you is just how did you adapt to, obviously, we lost a host midway through the season due to graduation. What was some of the best parts and hardest parts about adapting to a new atmosphere?
Well, I mean, for one, we changed the way the whole set looks. It also is adapting. You know, we have me here at the video wall by myself. It used to be, 3 of us here at the video wall, me, you, and Samuel Gailey, obviously. And then now we, included this new desk over here, which we aren't using today because Nate Long is, of course, not here. I mean, I think it was a pretty easy change. I mean, Jackson and Nate really made it easy on us. And, they've been very helpful so far throughout this whole semester, doing the rundown, doing graphics and all that stuff, being really helpful. So it's been really easy to adapt because of how good they have been for us.
And I ask you, coming into a show that's been going on for multiple seasons, how was that adjustment to now joining a show that's been going on for a few years now?
Yeah, it was weird because we didn't know what we were going to do. At first we were going to have you 3 at the video wall, and then I was going to come in for certain segments, and then it came that we're all going to stay on, and then we took out the video wall and we added this desk and then the other desk, and now we have all 4 of us on at the time. It was, a lot of just changes throughout the show and kind of making it fit all of our personalities, trying to get we all have different personalities and trying to get them all involved, and I think we did that well. I think that's what made this show so good, different from previous seasons.
And now I ask you, last question, favorite memory of season 2 of Grand Slam Sports? Or I guess your first season of Grand Slam Sports.
I don't know. I still like when I compared torpedo bats to steroids. I still believe in that. I feel like you still have to hit the ball. And I think that's so far the best memory.
Jace?
I feel like it's hard to pinpoint a certain moment as my favorite memory. I mean, there's been a lot of good moments this season, a lot of laughs, a lot of crazy things that are said because, it's just how we are. We say crazy things because, occasionally we're idiots and we just like to, instigate some arguments out. And, so I can't really pinpoint a favorite moment. This entire show has just been great for all of us. For Jackson, for Nate now, and for you and me, of course. We've been doing this for multiple seasons now. This has been just great for us to, get experience and talking sports.
No, I got another favorite moment. I just thought of it. Last episode, when somebody said the Giants were going to go to the playoffs.
That was me.
Win the division, maybe come second in the division. I still don't see that happening. And argument
to
was.
Preface, I did not say win the division. Those words never.
Sorry, you said make the playoffs. I still don't even think that's happened. I don't think they get close to that.
I'm still saying just wait. When we come back for Grand Slam, next semester, at the start of August, we're going to slowly see the Giants start to work their way up the NFC.
What, win 6 games?
Just wait.
Yeah, so I got to say my favorite memory, and this one's been my favorite memory since the beginning of this season, has to be the Halloween episode. Me as Batman, him as a blind ref for the Kansas City Chiefs, and of course Ricky Bobby, Samuel Gailey. This has been a fantastic show, and I just really want to thank everyone that's been involved. Looking at some of the people that made this happen, Liam Blaze and Delay Becker, Richard Dunkel for being able to help us out, Vanessa Sanchez for being here every single episode even though she didn't have to, Dylan Euler, who's been taking our pictures all year, and looking at the staff specifically, Tatum McCauley, Evan Porterfield, Kennedy Phelps, and of course, Samuel Gailey. He is very much so missed despite leaving us halfway through the semester to graduate or whatever that is. And looking at Jackson Strasburger, Nate Long, those 2 people that came on and really made this show the way it is today. And then me and Jace Hodge and Charles Foster, Just a special thank you to everyone that made it possible. Until season 3 of Grand Slam Sports, I'm Charles Foster. Have a good night.